Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Well, I guess it's just gonna be a war alert update kind of thing. Yes, there's other things going on. It's certainly not the end of the world yet. There's things going on in politics here in the United States. Some election today up in, I think, was it Wisconsin? A lot of people talking about how big it is. I think mostly because Elon Musk has been talking about how big it is. And we got wind, so you're probably going to get some wind noise today. I can only do so much about that. There's all kinds of other stuff going on. The economy is it's not looking good. Some new numbers came out today showing that, now of course this just feels how people feel, but they're numbers on what the American public feel is happening, and there's about a 50-50 chance that we'll go into a big recession according to those numbers. All that stuff's looking bad, but there's stuff going on in the Middle East, stuff going on in Europe, stuff going on in China and Taiwan. I think that's pretty significant because like I've said, between New World Order stuff and just end time stuff, I think we're headed for a really big war. And even the experts in both political parties have never said that we're not. There's just been, well, that's a few years away. That's a few years away. Back when Biden was president, they said that a big war would be, something like 2027, which is less than 2 years away. But things have changed. Things have escalated. So maybe that timeline has been moved up. Who knows? Also, remember that we're getting close to the 2030 time. So things just have to keep moving along. The stuff going on in the Middle East with Iran, the tensions just keep rising. It looks, just based on what is being spoken about in the news and officials and stuff, it looks like we're between 24 and 48 hours away from potentially a strike on Iran. That's according to Israeli news media and stuff from Donald Trump's mouth himself. Who knows? Will it be averted? Will something else happen? Will Iran preemptively strike? Who knows? One of the things that's kind of popped up in all this that's interesting is the relations between the United States and Russia, and most specifically, Donald Trump and Putin seem to have kind of broken down a little bit. We were made to believe there for a while that they were buddies and that things were going good, and that the peace deal was just going to be smooth sailing. Through the campaign trail, we were told in the first 24 hours the war would end, and that him and Putin are buddies and it's going to be okay. And then we heard, I think it was the 1st of April. Well, with the 1st of April, and not much have changed. There has been talk, but now Russia is coming back and saying that they're not interested in the deal that the United States has presented them because it doesn't meet the things that they demand. There's been a breakdown in friendship, it seems, over Greenland because Donald Trump has recently reinstated that we have to have Greenland, and that use of force, military force, is not off the table. And Russia fired back and said that is unacceptable, that's dangerous, that's not going to happen. And then, of course, now with Iran, of making very overt threats against Iran and Iran's nuclear systems, Russia has fired back and saying that would be a catastrophic mistake for the United States to attack Iran, and specifically any type of nuclear installation. So things are kind of falling apart there, and it got me to thinking, and I'm not making any kind of prediction here. I'm just playing out a scenario that seems like it could possibly happen, and I want you to, get your feedback from it. So keep in mind that what's going on in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia, has intensified, okay? Russia has dropped more attack drones since the first of the year in Ukraine than it has all the other time combined. And we are still supplying Ukraine with weapons. Remember, there was a little pause there, and then it's back to normal. And then now the United States and Israel wants to take actions against Iran, but Russia seems to be not necessarily standing in the way, but at least kind of making some threats. And then also with Greenland. So in the end, Russia's still a problem to the United States. What if we see an increase in weapons to Ukraine, or whether it's publicly acknowledging or privately of telling Ukraine to go full throttle against Russia? The excuse would be, well, Russia's not coming to the table. That was the deal to hold things back, that Russia would come to the table, and now they say they don't want it, that this isn't a good deal, so unleash the fury on the Russians by Ukraine through the United States, which could keep the Russians busy for a while, allowing the United States and Israel to move in on Iran, and maybe the United States go ahead and take Greenland. I know it's not a very detailed plan, but I think that it could be a very strong possibility of these things happening. So over the next few days, you might hear reports of increased attacks by Ukraine towards Russia. Ukraine may do something pretty significant towards Russia. I mean, at this point, I think Zelensky and Ukraine are desperate enough that if the Trump administration said, okay, we will play your game your way as long as you do these things. We will go ahead and support you, maybe not into NATO, but at least send you the weapons and then all that kind of stuff. If you do this to Russia, you need to keep them busy. You need to slap them hard because they're not playing the game that we want them to play. I'm pretty sure Ukraine would do that. Would it keep Russia busy enough? Is Russia capable of waging a two-front war? Probably at least as much as the United States, probably more than the United States, because Russia has a military right now that has several years of experience of war. We don't. We don't have a military that's experienced in war right now. We have some senior commanders that are, but our frontline troops have no experience whatsoever. They're very green. And they just went through 4 years of DEI Biden, that it's not been washed out yet. Not all of it, certainly. So Russia does have an advantage in some ways. And the United States, if the Trump administration is very serious about moving on Iran and taking Greenland, who knows what might happen. Now, if these things transpire, even if they don't transpire exactly like I'm saying, and I'm not making any predictions that they will happen this exact way, but they could happen something like this. One could say that all hell could break loose. China could certainly take the opportunity to move against Taiwan. It's becoming more aggressive over there, that's for certain. The economies everywhere are struggling. The world and the world elites have seemingly embraced cryptocurrency, and they're wanting to move towards that. So they got to do something with all of these, dollar-based systems out there. And a collapse would certainly fix that for a while. And then, of course, it's just the dawning of the new age of golden era and beast systems. And so getting involved in a big old world war, multi-front war, economic collapse, I mean, it would fit the bill of, checking off a lot of things on your end-time prophecy bingo card, right? It may not happen. This could all be bluffs. I mean, we've seen this between Iran and Israel. I think things are different, though. I explained that over on my locals video today, that I think the situation, the scenario is different. Why you saw Iran and Israel kind of making lots of threats and then backing down, a year or so ago, months ago. I think we're in a different scenario, and I think what's happening is different. So it's quite possible that things will actually escalate to the point of full contact. And that's going to do a lot in a bad way, for the economy, for oil prices, for trade. The trade wars will probably increase. They're already increasing. The tariffs are supposed to take place either April 2nd or April 3rd. I'm confused because it seems to change every day. The other day it was April 2nd. Now they're saying they're going to take place April 3rd. Make up their minds. 20% tariffs across the board, it seems like. I mean, to the point that they're serious enough about the tariffs that now the president is talking about doing bailouts to farmers because they're expected to be hit so hard by the tariffs. So now we're going to slap extra taxes on everyone, and then we're going to turn around and we're going to do bailouts. I mean, I'm pro-farmer. I don't want to see any of them hurt, but I also don't like the fact that the government's doing bailouts to a problem that they've created. I mean, it's a big, deep web, folks, that's happening. And while certainly all of these tensions and all of this show and all of this possible collapse stuff that's being talked about, man, that wind does not like my little tripod here. It could all just be a show. It could all just be a lead up to nothing. We have all been kind of disappointed over the last few years when things seem to be peaking and it's just about ready to go, and then it backs off and fizzles out. That could exactly happen over the next few days or few weeks. But I just want to point out that things are different. There's a different man in the White House that doesn't want to look bad, that doesn't want to look weak, that doesn't want to look like his bluff was called. We've got an administration that has very much so stronger allegiances to Israel, which is a very key player in this whole Iranian thing. We also have an administration that's very, very serious about implementing end-time prophecies, you know, things like the third temple, that kind of stuff. They're very serious about it. And so I think that things are very different than they were months ago when Biden was in office and Iran and Israel were threatening to go to war against each other. That was a regional event. This is bigger. This is getting into World War type event, because now you got the United States threatening to go against Iran. You've got Russia and probably a few other players saying, oh, no, you're not going to go in there and start messing them up, because we're going to come and help them too. A bigger deal. And so we need to be prepared. We need to be getting ready. A big part of that is just the psychological preparedness, spiritual preparedness also, because if I'm right at all, then we are seeing, I think, the real, true, notable, noticeable, non-deniable beginning of the end times. So you certainly need to be getting ready in that way. And then other ways too, obviously, the obvious prepper things. You know, you need to be preparing for the dollar to continually lose value, maybe to the point of nothing. You need to get prepared for inflation to continually going up. You need to get prepared for a recession, depression, for supply chain issues, for oil prices to go up, for everything to get more expensive. And then it's just a snowball at that point. You need to be prepared for that kind of stuff. And I know that most of you say, I am, and that's great. But even for those that claim that you already are, I would say the same thing. I'm sure there's more that we can do. We can push ourselves a little bit further. And that's really what I'm asking, especially for those of you that are ready. Push yourself a little harder, because there's not really anything to lose at this point by doing that, other than you're just a little bit more prepared, because the things that are happening, they look serious. They look very real. They may not be, but they look that way. And it doesn't hurt to get ourselves ready. Get your houses in order, folks. Prepare yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.